Hey friends, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about my most anticipated books coming out for the rest of the year. Because there are 16 books on this list that I am so excited to read before the end of the year, and all of these books are publishing in the second half, this last little bit of 2022. There are even some books already getting announced for 2023, so I'm like, oh my gosh, before we get ahead of ourselves, I need to let you know about all of my most anticipated books that I'm planning to read before the end of the year. Like, these are my most anticipated for the rest of 2022. However, before we jump into today's video, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Bright Cellars for sponsoring today's video. Bright Cellars is one of my favorite sponsors to work with because one of my favorite things to do is discovering new wines. And Bright Cellars is great because they match you with wines from small vineyards all over the world that are curated specifically to your palate. They also have hundreds of exclusive wine brands so that you'll be able to try different wines that you've never tried before. Each box comes with these wine education cards for each bottle that outline the tasting notes, suggested pairings, best serving temperature, and origin. These wine cards definitely help me feel more like an expert, even though I'm not when it comes to wine. It's very helpful and useful to know the serving temperature for different wines. Like, who knew there could be so much variety? Bright Cellars also cares about sustainability, and their packaging has the smallest carbon footprint in the industry and is 100% recyclable. I've gotta say, there is nothing more exciting than seeing a box of wine delivered right to your front door. Like, you don't even gotta leave your house. It's amazing, and it's cool because you can decide how often you want to receive those boxes. I think it's definitely a must when it comes to entertaining, because you'll never show up to a dinner party without a bottle of wine, or if you have guests over unexpectedly, you'll have bottles of wine ready to go on the fly. Some of the bottles they sent me to try include this rosé that's Life in the Woods, and this one is freaking delicious. You know, I love a good rosé. I'm always here for the rosé. They also sent me this one. This is the Forever Fleeting White Wine Blend, and this one is also really good. This one's probably my favorite that they've sent so far. I've had the wine from Forever Fleeting before, but I've never tried this blend in particular, and I really love the white peach and the nectarine in this one. Oh my god, it's delicious. The wine that I'm most excited to try would probably be this rosé. It's called Ocavado, and it just looks like it's gonna be great. I mean, as I said, rosé, sign me up. Like, I'm here to try all the different rosés. I've never tried this one before. Sponsors like Bright Cellars make it possible for me to continue to create the content that I love. So by supporting Bright Cellars, you can be directly supporting my channel. And thank you so much to Bright Cellars for giving my followers a limited time offer of 50% off your first 6-bottle box. You can click the link in the description to see which wine best suits you. And thank you so much once again to Bright Cellars for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the most anticipated books. Alright, so jumping right into my list of 16 books that I'm really looking forward to. Starting off in September, we have The Weight of Blood by Tiffany Jackson. This one is set to come out on September 6th, and this one, the short little premise of this just says, Tiffany D. Jackson ramps up the horror and tackles America's history and legacy of racism in this suspenseful novel. And so this is a young adult novel, and it follows a biracial teen as her Georgia high school hosts its first integrated prom. And from what I understand, it's a retelling of Carrie by Stephen King. And so I'm just very intrigued by this book for so many reasons, because I do like Tiffany D. Jackson a whole lot. I really enjoy her books. I feel like retellings of Carrie are becoming really popular all of a sudden, so I'm really curious to see Tiffany D. Jackson's take on it, and I'll definitely be checking this book out when it comes out next month. One of the romances that's also publishing on September 6th is called The Decoy Girlfriend, and this romance just sounds really interesting to me because it says a young woman who takes the place of her celebrity doppelganger and must fake date the actress's sexy co-star boyfriend. So I'm like, wait a second, there's a whole lot happening in here that I'm intrigued by, because she takes the place of her celebrity doppelganger? Like, what? And then it's about how she has to fake date the actress's sexy co-star boyfriend. So I'm like, okay, they were co-stars and now she's replacing the actress? Like, I have so many questions and I need to know answers. And also, fake dating, I'm here, sign me up. I love, you know, like, following actors in Hollywood and, like, behind the scenes of that. So, like, there's a lot of things about this book that intrigue me. I've never heard of this author before, but I'll definitely be checking this book out when it comes out on September 6th. And then yet another romance that comes out on September 6th is gonna be The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. And this is the same author as the Spanish Love Inception, which is, you know, an incredibly popular, hyped book. I ended up giving that one like a 4 out of 5, so I really did enjoy that book, so I'm really curious about this one. And the main reason why I'm excited and why I put this on my most anticipated list is because, you know, not only is this a romance from an author that I've previously enjoyed a book from, but it also takes place in New York, which is, you know, one of my top favorite things in books. It's a situation where they're gonna have to share an apartment, which is also like, oh my god, the roommates trope is one of my favorite things ever. And then also, she's a romance writer from what I understand reading the premise of this book. So, you know, that's like 3 different things that I look for in romance books that I love. I love following writers, I love books that take place in New York, and I love the roommate trope. So this book should be a winner for me. Like, I'm hoping, like, could this be a 5-star? I don't know, but I really want to read this one. And then the last book that I have that comes out in the month of September is We Spread by Ian Reid, and this one comes out on September 27th. This one, all I really understand about it is that it's like a horror, kind of like speculative thriller type of story. You know, this is the same author as I'm Thinking of Ending Things, so I never really know what to expect from this author, basically, because his books are just very strange, very bizarre, wild. But I'm intrigued by this one because all I really understand from the premise is that it follows a woman who lives alone and she starts to lose her grip on the passage of time and her place in the world. So you can probably expect this book to be just as wild and bizarre and confusing probably as I'm Thinking of Ending Things, but like, can he do it again? Can he do it? We'll see. It sounds really interesting. I love the idea of the title of the book just being called We Spread. Like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know, but I'm excited about it. And then kicking off October, we have one of my most anticipated releases, which is Jackal by Aaron E. Adams. This one comes out on October 4th, and this one is a horror kind of like thriller novel, and it just says a young black girl goes missing in the woods outside her white Rust Belt town, but she's not the first and she may not be the last. Honestly, don't need to know any more than that. I'm obsessed. I can't wait to read this. I love the cover and just like everything about this just screams like I need to pick it up. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Maybe hoping it can even be maybe a booktube pick later this year, you know what I'm saying? And then another book coming out on October 4th is Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. And if you didn't know, Celeste Ng is one of my favorite authors. You know, she wrote Little Fires Everywhere, she wrote Everything I Never Told You, and this is her 3rd highly anticipated book from this author. And this author is known for writing these really beautiful family kind of stories, and most of her books have been like literary fiction, kind of like historical fiction or contemporary fiction kind of vibe before. And this one, looking at the Goodreads genres, this one's also going to be literary fiction, but it also has some like sci-fi dystopian elements to it, which I'm like, bitch, what? So intrigued. This one, the premise sounds like it's kind of a lot, so I figured I would read you parts of the premise so that we can understand what this book is about. But it basically follows this 12-year-old named Bird who lives a quiet existence with his loving but broken father, a former linguist who now shelves books in Harvard's university's library. That's cool. For a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture in the wake of years of economic instability and violence. So to keep the peace and restore prosperity, the authorities are now allowed to relocate children, especially those of Asian origin, and libraries have been forced to remove books seen as unpatriotic, including the work of Bird's mother, Margaret, a Chinese-American poet who left the family when he was 9 years old. So like, what? You know, this sounds kind of dystopian, but honestly, it sounds pretty damn close to what we're already dealing with in our society, so I cannot wait to see Celeste Ng write this beautiful, gripping story. I just know this book is gonna hit, okay? I just know. Alright, the next book that I have on this list is a book that I actually already did receive an ARC for, but it's Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner, and this one comes out on October 11th, and this one is a romance novel that I am so excited to read because it sounds very taboo, because this one says it's a sexy rom-com about a college senior who accidentally hooks up with her best friend's mom. So like, not only is it taboo because there's like, you know, an age gap there because it's her best friend's mom, but also it's just juicy, you know, like the freaking tea. Oh my god, it's her best friend's mom and she's hooking up with her. And so we have like a female-female romance. We have this very, you know, forbidden juicy kind of romance happening between these two women. I don't know, I'm excited. I'm very curious about this one because I wasn't a huge fan of this author's first romance novel that she published. I thought it was just fine, but with this kind of like forbidden romance, I'm definitely curious to check it out. I think it's gonna be really good. Like, I don't know, I'm so excited. And then on that same day, October 11th, we have Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe, which is publishing. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? This is a young adult thriller from the same author as A List of Cages, which is one of my favorite young adult books that came out years ago now. Like, honestly, it's been so long, I almost forgot about it. But this is like probably the only author that's a young adult author that I will continue to pick up anything that this author writes, because A List of Cages was so freaking good. And this one's a young adult thriller. All I really know about this one is it says it follows a 16-year-old who has everything until he's kidnapped by a man who tells him the privileged life he's been living is based on a lie. And so yeah, I'm not really sure, you know, what to expect going into this one. I don't know if I should expect something similar to A List of Cages or if I should expect something completely different. But yeah, this is this author's second novel. Like, we're finally getting another novel from Robin Rowe. I'm so excited. I hope this book is amazing and that it can live up to all of the hype in my head for it. And then on October 18th, we have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover Publishing. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite books of all time, and it came out a number of years ago now, and it still left such an impression on me, and I still consider it to be an all-time favorite. And so this is the fucking sequel. We're actually getting a fucking sequel to It Ends With Us. And this book, apparently it's told from Atlas's point of view, which, you know, Atlas is my favorite character in It Ends With Us. So I don't know, I have no idea what to expect. Like, I'm kind of nervous that this book, you know, sometimes they market these sequels as like, it's the sequel, but we get a different character's point of view. So like, I hope it's not a situation where we just get a recap of It Ends With Us and it's all just told from Atlas's point of view. I hope it's actually like a sequel, like a continuation of the story, and not just like the same story from Atlas's point of view, if that makes sense. Because I know sometimes they've done that, you know, with like 50 Shades of Grey or with Twilight, they like release the sequel or like the next book, but it's just from the dude's point of view. And I'm like, that's boring. I don't care about that. I hope it's a freaking true sequel and that we get to see more of like Atlas and Lily after all of the events of It Ends With Us. Like, ugh. Oh my god, I'm just so excited. Like, I cannot wait. I'm counting down the fucking days, okay? Another cute romance that's also coming out on October 18th is this one called A Cosmic Kind of Love by Samantha Young. And this one, you might be wondering why I would put this on my most anticipated, because in the past, I have really disliked, like strongly disliked a book from this author before, and I was like, gonna write her off forever after that one experience. But this book got me, okay, because not only the cover and the title, you know, I'm a space bitch, you know, anything space related, I'm like, sign me the fuck up. And I just think this looks so fucking cute. And the way this story, it says it follows a wedding planner, like she's a wedding planner and he's an astronaut. Oh my god, he's a legitimate astronaut. Like, how fucking cute. So apparently the situation is that she receives party inspiration material from the bride of her latest wedding project, and the last thing she expects to find in the files are digital videos from Darcy's ex-boyfriend. So I guess the guy is the astronaut that's like the love interest. He's the ex-boyfriend of the current woman that she's like wedding planning for, so like that's interesting. And then she watches all of these personal videos of this guy who's an astronaut on the International Space Station. And then it says it's not long until she starts sending emails and video diaries to his discontinued NASA address, and she doesn't know if he's seeing them. But then we also follow Christopher, who is the astronaut, and he's getting forwarded all of her messages that she's sending out to him. And it's like they're falling in love through like emails and messages, and like fucking he's in space. I don't know, it sounds like it has the potential to be my new favorite thing ever, depending on how it goes. But you know, I think I'm gonna go in with some lower expectations because I didn't enjoy a book from this author previously, but otherwise I'm so excited. The premise just sounds so stankin' cute. Another romance that I have on this list, I swear I didn't think I had that many romances, but I guess I do, because the next one is Kiss Her Once For Me by Alison Cottrun, which is coming out November 1st, and I'm sorry if I just butchered that author's name, but it's the same author as The Charm Offensive, which was one of my favorite books from last year. Like, it was probably my favorite romance book that I read last year, so I almost screamed when I saw that this author has another romance publishing later this year. This one says it's a festive romantic comedy about a woman who fakes an engagement with her landlord only to fall for his sister. So I'm like, oh my god, okay, so we're talking a female-female romance. It's kind of around Christmas time, I guess, so it's a little bit festive, which has me nervous, you know, because I'm not the biggest fan of like Christmas books or like Christmas in books. It can usually be very like cheesy and like eye-rolly for me, so I'm hoping that that's not the case with this one, but I don't know. It sounds interesting, and like a fake engagement with her landlord, and then she falls for his sister. So I'm like, what is going on? I need the tea. I need to know. I'm excited. I'm gonna check this one out. Maybe I will read it for Christmas. I don't know. All right, next up we have A Sliver of Darkness by CJ Tudor. This one's coming out November 8th, and all I know about it is that it's a horror short story collection, and I am so fucking excited for this because CJ Tudor is the author of, you know, The Chalk Man and The Burning Girls and like all of these thriller kind of horror type books that I've really enjoyed in the past. And so I am so excited to see this author's take on a short story collection with horror as the theme, you know, because as I say time and time again, I know I repeat myself so much, but I think horror is the genre that really thrives in like the short story, like novella, short format. And so I'm very excited to read a whole collection of short stories from this author. I think it's gonna be great. And then another book coming out on November 8th is one that I have already received the ARC for, but it's Secluded Cabin Sleeps 6 by Lisa Unger. And this one, it does come out November 8th, and this one's a thriller from the same author as Confessions on the 745, which was a thriller that I really enjoyed, and so I'm definitely curious to check this one out. This one, just the basic premise says a chilling locked room thriller about three couples who rent a luxury cabin in the woods and a weekend getaway to die for. And so there are a lot of things that really intrigue me about this premise because I love a locked room thriller and I love cabin in the woods vibes, and so I'm really excited. You know, this sounds like it could be the perfect kind of like rich people murder vibes, but like a cabin in the woods. Like, sign me the fuck up. I'm so here for this. And then we have yet another thriller that's publishing on November 8th. It's The Family Game by Catherine Stedman. And this is one that I'm nervous about, but I'm excited because I'm nervous because I've never really been able to get into the thrillers from this author. Like, this author's put out so many thrillers, and I'm pretty sure I've tried to read her books like 2 or 3 times now, and I just get bored by like the 50-page mark and I set them aside. But this one has a really cool neon cover, as you can see, which really just grabs my attention immediately. But also, the premise sounds really fascinating and like something that I could really enjoy because it follows a rich, eccentric family, and it says a time-honored tradition or a lethal game of survival. One woman finds out what it takes to really join the 1%. And so I'm really curious, you know, I think it's going to involve a game. It kind of sounds like Ready or Not or something. So very intrigued by this, very much looking forward to giving this one a go. Hopefully it's not a total bust like her other books for me. And then we have another romance coming out on November 22nd. It's Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. And this is actually the second romance novel from the author of Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This one's technically the sequel, but you know how these romance series usually work is that they can be read as standalones. I'm excited and nervous for this one because I wasn't the biggest fan of Delilah Green Doesn't Care, but I remember saying that it was just kind of those characters that didn't work that well for me in Delilah Green, but I did really enjoy the romance writing, and I remember saying like I would definitely be willing and wanting to check out more books from this author in the romance genre. It was just that book in particular that didn't work that well for me, so I'm excited. You know, I'm excited for this one. This one just says, an interior designer learns to rebuild her love life from the ground up with 0 blueprints. And this is another female-female romance from this author. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're following Delilah's sister, Astrid, in this book. It's been a hot second since I read Delilah Green, so I can't remember if she's Delilah's sister or the other girl, Claire's sister, I think. But it's somebody's sister. Astrid was somebody's sister. And I'm excited to, like, you know, it's another female-female romance, like, let's go. I feel like there's so many female-female romances lately, and I'm so excited about it. Like this next one, and it's actually the last book that I have on this list. This one comes out November 29th, but it's Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez. This one is another female-female romance, but this one is young adult, okay? I didn't immediately realize when I wanted to read this one that this would be young adult because the premise sounds very adult to me, so I was kind of surprised that it's young adult, but it's female, and the book title is very Taylor Swift inspired, possibly. It sounds very like, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. You know how it goes. Anyways, This one says, when their now famous ex-boyfriend asks them to participate in a teen reality show, two 18-year-old girls, one bent on revenge and the other open to rekindling romance, get tangled up in an unexpected twist when they fall for each other instead. Oh my god, okay, this sounds like a number of things that I love. It kind of sounds like The Charm Offensive or something, right? Where we have like a reality dating show kind of situation, kind of like The Bachelor or something, and then they fall for each other instead. Like, this is everything that I've always wanted from these kinds of reality shows. Like, I've always thought whenever I'm watching The Bachelor, I'm like, I ship those two girls together so much harder than I would ship either of them with that man. And so I'm so excited. This is like my dreams becoming reality with this book. I mean, I just wish this wasn't young adult. Like, if this book wasn't young adult, this would probably be like my most anticipated of the year. But because it's young adult, that's the only reason why I'm like, okay, I don't know. I mean, they're both 18, so like there's hope. But like, either way, I'm still looking forward to it. It's definitely one of my most anticipated of the year because it's on this list, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, those are all of my most anticipated books for the rest of this year. I'm also really excited to do my most anticipated books of 2023 video, probably in like December time, because there's already so many books getting announced for next year that I'm like so excited for. My mind is exploding. And so I'm really looking forward to the rest of this year. I'm looking forward to next year. There are so many things that I'm excited about. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if you're also looking forward to any of these books or if any of these books are also your most anticipated releases. And also let me know if I didn't mention some books that are some of your most anticipated books for the rest of the year. Like, are there any that I missed that I don't know about? You guys gotta tell me all the tea. You gotta fill me in. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.